Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Call Box. This is where you go for police info. I'm your host, Lieutenant Vince Lewis, coming to you once again from beautiful downtown Phoenix Police Headquarters with my co-host, PIO Sgt. Lorraine Fernandez. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Everything good?
Yes, ready for the holidays.
Good. Where's
kind
Rob?
Kind of. He's MIA, as you know, kind of usual.
Again, yeah. So holidays are approaching. We're celebrating safely.
We are. I'm smart.
We want to talk about some news. I guess it's news. You've been covering some, updates to the way that our communications operators answer the 911 system.
Yeah, our amazing dispatchers. We just announced on Monday that we're starting to not only ask for if you need police, if you need fire, but we're also asking for behavioral health. So it's a new addition to the questions, but there's a little bit more history that our special guest today can kind of go into how long we've actually been doing that.
Okay. Well, our guest is special. We want to reintroduce you all to our public police administrator, Allie Edwards.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Call Box. You were our first guest on the rebrand of the Call Box. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. That was exciting to be the first guest. It was fun.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the changes since we last spoke. But the story that we're bringing up today is the question that callers will be asked when they call 911. Can you tell us a little bit about that update?
Yeah, when callers call 911, so the first question that we're going to ask is 911, where is your emergency? If you're calling on the 911 line. From there, depending on what your emergency is, we're going to ask you, do you need police, fire, or behavioral health?
Okay, so we've done some media on this. We pushed out the information, but we were talking before that we started. There's some clarification. There's some important information we want to get right, and that's based on the feedback that we're getting, some of the clarification. Can you set the record straight then on what it is that we're actually trying to communicate?
Yes, so we've actually been doing this program since 2019. So we have been diverting calls over to our behavioral health partners with either Solari or recently behavioral health unit, the CAP program within fire. And so we've asked questions about behavioral health. We've tried to get the right resource to them. This is just an additional question that we are now asking. It's kind of like a net, you can think about it, to catch some of those calls that it might not come up right away that it's behavioral health, but it is behavioral health when we ask that question, because it might trigger someone to say, yes, you know what, this is related to something else. And so we are able to catch that now.
So we're just triaging that right up front, basically.
Yes.
Instead of kind of letting the call develop and having the dispatcher figure that out, we're just putting it out up front, giving the three options and kind of determining at that point which would be, if not multiple, responding to that particular call.
Yeah, that's right. We're just triaging it right up front now because we're still going to go through our questions. It's not like we're automatically going to send it to fire or automatically send it to the behavioral health team. We're still going to ensure that everybody is safe and that we're still sending the right resources.
So that's what it's about. It's about getting the right resources to the right emergency. And that's why people are calling on one. We're going to take a break here in a minute, but we'll talk a little bit more about communications and where you've been since we last spoke. But just to get it out there, go ahead and tell us one more time. When callers call, they will receive, a communication operator will answer in English and ask them the question.
Yeah, when they call in, your first question again is going to be 911, where is your emergency? And then from there, we're going to ask you, do you need police, fire, or behavioral health?
Okay, so and from there, because not every call we know necessitates the response of a armed sworn police officer. But sometimes it's got to go to fire. Sometimes it's medical, which is handled by the fire department.
Correct.
Sometimes it's behavioral health specialists.
Yeah.
So, and we've had a great relationship not only with the community assistance program through the Phoenix Fire Department, but historically we've had mobile teams, access to mobile teams of people who are in crisis, mental health crisis that need that services, don't necessarily need, because we're not mental health specialists.
No, we are.
We're experienced and we have minimal training. But again, it's about sending the right resource to the correct emergency. And we're very grateful not only for the training that you put communications operators through to be able to pinpoint exactly where that need is, but we're also grateful for our community partners. So again, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about communications, the state of the Bureau,
okay,
and anything else newsworthy that you'd like for the community to know. So we'll be back in just a short break. Stick around.
I'm a Little League coach. And I'm a Phoenix police detective and a part of the team here too.
Find endless career options with one of America's best large employers.
Welcome back to the call box. It's where you go for police info. I want to welcome back our special guest, Police Administrator Allie Edwards, over the Communications Bureau, which houses our communications operators. Those are both what classically call our 911 call takers and dispatchers, right?
Yes.
Cross-trained?
Cross-trained. Yep. They do
In
both.
most cases, they how long is that training?
That training is 9 months long, so they get extensive training in their first year.
Wow. How soon before they are listening in on calls or actually answering calls?
The first 3 weeks they spend in classroom training, and then after that third week, they are out on the floor starting to take 911 calls and non-emergency calls. So right away.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Knowing on our end what we hear and how stressful those calls can be, hearing those for the first time and actually dealing with them, that's got to be a lot of stress and also excitement because, you're actually getting to apply those techniques that you learn. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's both.
Of the calls that come in, how many actually go to a police officer?
It's about 32% per year actually go to a police officer. So the rest we are triaging and diverting elsewhere if need be.
Okay. And that's kind of what we were talking about before the break. Not every call, out of what we used to say, like 2 million calls a year, about 600,000 would actually go to a responding police officer. But a lot of that now is changing because we're diverting calls that would have gone to a police officer to basically show up with their gun, their training, and figure it out. Now we're able to actually divert calls to experts in that field. So if somebody calls in crisis and they need help, behavioral health specialists, we're not sending a police officer necessarily if it's not an emergent situation.
Correct. So we're not going to send a police officer. We're just going to send it to our behavioral health partners and they will respond to it.
Okay. So you right off the bat when they answer, or our communications officer is kind of figuring out where those go. And that's what we're talking about.
Yep. That's what we're talking about.
So part of that training, and again, that you said that this has been going on since 2019. We're just kind of coming up straight with the question now. But part of that triaging and responding is, figuring out what the emergency is and is it applicable for fire and PD and behavioral health to respond. So I think it's important for people to understand that just because that it could be a crisis situation, depending on the circumstances that the dispatcher is able to establish in that phone call, like if someone has a weapon, we are going to respond because it's also important for us to make sure that our partners from behavioral health are safe when they're responding.
Yes, 100%. So we are still taking their safety into mind. We're taking the public safety into mind, the citizen safety, the officer safety, fire, everybody's safety into mind when doing that. So just because it is a behavioral health situation does not mean that police will not respond to it or fire will not respond to it. It can be anywhere from you're having problems with your kid potentially not wanting to go to school and you're a parent and you need resources to a more extensive situation where someone potentially does have a weapon and we're going to be sending police out there and calling our behavioral health partners to come with us and respond to that.
So we being the police department, we're 24/7 available. You can always call. We'll always pick up.
Yep.
If we're going, we're going to go first and head that way before we're even told, we don't need to.
Yes.
But so much of the work on the front end while that call is being taken and triaged by the operator, so much of that conversation really pulls the details of the emergency out. So that extensive training that our comm operators, our 911 call takers go through really helps us get down to the root of the issue. So it could go to one of our behavioral health specialists, but it could go to a crisis intervention trained officer or operator, right?
Yeah, it can. So our operators go through the same crisis intervention training that the officers go through as well. And so we have a group of people within the comm center that come back. We take what they've learned. We offer additional training. They're able to be a resource on the floor to the operators that have not been able to go through it. And so when that call comes in, if we are sending a behavioral health unit out, or maybe we're not yet because the scene's not secure, that lets us know that we can blind call for a CIT officer, and that CIT officer can go to that call.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that, a CIT officer in patrol right now, just speaking with the CIT sergeant yesterday, we have 277 officers that are on patrol that have gone through that training and are there to help start de-escalating those situations while behavioral health is on the way.
So I remember I've been involved in that program since 2003, and that was only a few years after I got on the department. And the Memphis model of crisis intervention training is bringing those tenets to the field so that our first responders, operators included, because you guys had to make first contact, really get to the issue at hand so that we're sending the right resource to assist somebody in a crisis and an emergency. And correct?
Yeah, no, that's correct. And even if we do hand it over to a behavioral health specialist and they say something on the phone, they're always able to call us back and be like, hey, we're not going to go until you guys are going with us, or we're going to hang back a little bit. And can you let us know when PD's on scene? And then we're able to come in with that. So we have that communication back and forth.
Okay. But so, Allie, you've been at this from the beginning.
Yeah,
You
I have
started
been.
your career in communications. Help us understand the anatomy of a 911 call. Caller picks up and calls for whatever their emergency is. How do you figure out what they need, and how do you determine where to send that call?
So we have a list of, we call them our 10 W's, that helps us triage the call, anywhere from where is your emergency? What is the emergency? Are there any weapons involved? What does the person look like? What are the vehicles? So through those questions, the story gets told from the people.
So, sorry to interrupt, but the where could be, is this on the highway?
Yeah.
Is this out of county?
Correct.
Is this from another state?
Yeah. That where can be anywhere, because we are that first, we're called the primary PSAP. So we're the primary PSAP in Phoenix. So if it's on the freeway, we're transferring it over to DPS. If it's a fire, we're going over there. If it's in Tempe, we're transferring them over there. So really from that beginning, we have to figure out where it is to make sure we're sending the right people again.
Yeah, the where and the what.
Yeah, the where and the why.
Yeah. And I know that in August, we launched our AI technology for our non-emergency. If someone calls in for a behavioral health issue using the non-emergency, are there safeguards in place to catch that as well?
Yes, there are safeguards in place with that as well. So we ask about weapons. We ask, is this occurring now? We ask, is it more of a resource that they need, or is it something where an officer has to respond? So there's safeguards in place on the non-emergency line too.
Is 988 the same as 911?
No, they are different. So 988 is going to be directly to the crisis line. So you're not even going to talk to an operator on 988. So if you know that you are having a crisis and you don't need a police response, call 988, because 988 is going to get you that help. They can always call us if they determine an officer is needed, but 988 is totally different than 911.
Great. Well, thank you for your valuable time,
Yeah.
Administrator Edwards, Allie, for coming on and making that information clear for us. So when callers call 911, they'll be asked right up front if they need police, paramedical, or behavioral health. So thanks for explaining that to us. I want to thank my co-host, Sergeant Fernandez. Thank the crew for producing. And you, the viewer, just want to remind you that you too can help solve crime in your community by sending tips to Silent Witness. Visit silentwitness.org or call 480-WITNESS. Visit us on all social media platforms. Usually it's at Phoenix Police. We are hiring. Go to joinphxpd.com and figure out how you can be a part of the solution out there. And remember, till next time, be safe.